Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. Man, I've been wanting to do Circle 4 for a good minute. But every time I'm about to put it out, there's something else I gotta push out before it. So I just figured, why not just get it started before it completely gets lost in the mix with everything else we're doing? Because this is one of those stories where like the right things and the right characters line up to give you something pretty awesome. Because all new Wolverine, or X-23 at the time, gets the question answered whether she has a soul or not. Alexandra has her confidence tested as a new Ghost Rider. Flash finds out the symbiote is just a crutch for him. And we get the Venom, Hulk, Ghost Rider. Come on, man. Let's get into it. Alright, so of course, as you know, X-23, Hulk, Ghost Rider, and Venom just don't be hanging out all the time. So I'm going to start off with where they at individually and then tell you how they kind of got together. So starting off with Alexandra Jones, who's Ghost Rider at this particular time. And she's fairly new to being Ghost Rider, so she still has a few things to learn. And that's pretty much what Johnny Blaze is here for, to kind of teach her the ropes, show her a few things, help her with the learning curve so she doesn't have to figure out everything the hard way. But at the same time, she's a bit hard-headed, so half the time he's doing stuff, she's on her phone and not paying attention or whatever. But from her perspective, she knows what she's doing and she doesn't need to be babied or have somebody hold her hand through it. And all these characters are in Nevada at this point to how they get mixed up together. So General Ross, who we're going to talk about next, he's out looking for Flash Thompson because he's went completely AWOL. And so at this point, he's been searching high and low for Flash, and he's real frustrated and totally pissed because he has a very short temper for people signing up for a service and then going absent without leave. So he's been going around the country turning it upside down just to find Flash. And he's getting really close because Flash just happens to be in Las Vegas at this time too. And Flash has been going through it, man, as far as PTSD, depression, and like right here, he's on the phone breaking up with Betty Brant. And I'll leave a link up for the Spider-Man video I did where the two of them first got back together because they met up when they hadn't seen each other from school, and then he went off to Iraq, and that's when he got injured, and when he came back, they started dating. But yeah, he totally flips out here and he breaks up with her over the phone. And when he hangs up, he like slams the phone onto the table, breaking it, and the symbiote's like, hey man, you need a drink. And I like how he just picks up a bottle at Johnny Walker and tries to hand it to him. But next up, you got Laura Kinney, who's also in Vegas at the casinos, and she's not working here, even though that's what it looks like. But she's actually undercover trying to get a vial of her blood back. And she's traced it back to the owner of the casino who bought it. And now you might be thinking that she just wants to get it back so there's no other clones made after her of X-23. Or at least outside of the ones that have already been produced. Now, although that is one of the reasons, to her it goes way beyond that. It's more personal. Because Laura's tired of being treated like an object. She's had people use her as a weapon. She has people try to steal her before. So because she's tired of being used, taking her blood is like taking a piece of her away. And she's not having that. Alright, so that's where your characters start off at. So skipping over to the casino owner, Mr. Dagley, dude really has some questionable business tactics because he has this mirror that he pushes people's souls into. And like first time I seen him do that, I'm like, okay, you ain't no regular person. Like regular people don't do that. And we find out that he's doing this because he's collecting souls to open a doorway. And he's taking people like this guy who you really don't feel that sorry for because he killed a bookie over like $2,000, left his wife and children high and dry with no money, and he gambled out the money that he needed for his mother's cancer treatment. So Mr. Dagley's like, hey, your soul really ain't worth much, but I'll take it anyway. And with him taking X-23's blood, it was a way of him rigging up a loophole to make one of the ingredients for the ceremony work. And I'll explain that more in depth when we get back to lore. But as soon as he starts mixing the 4 ingredients, which are the 100 souls, the alien flesh, the toxic symbiote, which he mentions he had to kill to acquire. And the toxic symbiote was previously owned by Patrick Mulligan. And this symbiote is the offspring of the Carnage symbiote, which Carnage wanted to destroy at one point, knowing that it would be more powerful than Carnage or Venom eventually. But Dagley ended up killing Patrick and his whole family just to get this symbiote so he could perform this ritual. But that happened in a whole nother series. I just want to give you guys a little background to tie it into this. So with only one piece left, he gets the other ones in motion. And the initiation of the spell triggers Alexandra. Because as Ghost Rider, she's compelled to punish these 100 souls. And as soon as she turns, she's just ready to go out there. But Johnny's like, wait a minute, let's look into this. We'll see what you're getting into before you just jump out there. He's like, let me call the guy first and then we can get into it. But she's not hearing that. She just takes off. Which is really naive because she could really benefit from Johnny's experience. But skipping back to Flash, who hasn't even left his room yet, probably hasn't even showered, man. He's looking at old pictures of his father that passed and just trying to drink his problems away. Then Red Hulk just slaps the motel door open with one swing, scaring the mess out of Flash, who wasted all his liquor all over himself and probably released other fluids as well too. But when Ross gets there, he's like, I'm taking you back and I'm confiscating the symbiote. And now even though the symbiote can't speak, it just comes out with this I ain't going back mentality. And it jumps on top of Ross, like halfway venomizing him. Yeah, you like how I just made that word up, right? But Ross runs through the wall full speed into a gas station and just blows himself up sky high. Like he wasn't playing, he ain't about that Venom life. But after getting Ross out of there, the symbiote jumps back on Flash and he takes off running. But that dash is short-lived because Ross bounces right back. And Ross uppercuts Flash like into another zip code. No exaggeration, like literally. And while he's in the air, we're going to move on with Laura Kinney. So now while she's hunting down the different samples of her blood, she comes across a different discovery. And so at this point, she's discovered the laboratory of where they got her blood at, and she hits up one of the scientists so she can get into the room where it's actually at, or at least destroy whatever they've cloned and made out of it. And so when she gets inside the room, she finds a number of different clones laying dormant. But when they come alive, she finds out that their DNA has been pre-bonded with a toxin symbiote. And they got some big ugly lips. It's like their lips and their gums just become one. It's nasty. And so at this point, we jump over to Alexandra, who's made it over to the circle. And she notices that the spell has already begun and the circle's already spinning. So her logic is she'll just drive around the circle in the opposite direction and reverse everything that it's doing. But her arrogance actually shows for ignorance here. So instead of stopping the spell, she actually puts it into action because she's the last missing ingredient. And this exact situation was what Johnny was trying to stop her from getting into, because he understands the power of the Ghost Rider better than anyone she's met. And he was trying to teach her that it's more about knowing how to do tricks, but it's also about not being tricked into using your power to anchor a spell that needs a strong source to activate. And so while Venom and Red Hulk are still fighting, they notice everything around them getting real weird. And so like in the middle of the fight, Hulk looks at Venom. He's like, is this one of your powers? And Venom's like, nah, I thought it was yours. But when they see demons coming out of the ground and they start eating people, at that point it's like, man, forget the differences we had. We need to figure something out to get up out of here. But they notice a tower off in the distance, which seems to be the source where all this is coming from. So they head towards it to shut it down before this thing spreads everywhere. But Johnny Blaze ends up using an amulet that he has that can keep anything from entering or leaving hell. And this buys him some time so his friends show up to help him figure out a way to resolve this issue. So after Johnny Blaze contains the incident and goes inside, we find out that Mr. Degley is actually Blackheart. And for those who aren't familiar with the character, Blackheart is Mephisto's son. And not in the conventional way, he just kind of created Blackheart out of pure evil. But then again, there's plenty of kids out there that I question he's their daddy too. Little badasses. But Blackheart is determined to show Mephisto that he can be a better ruler than him. So when he reaches out to Mephisto to tell him what he's accomplished, Mephisto's like, not quite. You said you was gonna bring hell on earth and cover it with demons. You only did Vegas. I don't see the progress there. And Blackheart gets pissed because not only does he belittle him and criticize him, but he never gives him due credit at any point in time. But it's Mephisto, so what you expect? So right after that, assuming his father's gonna send some trouble, he calls for the symbiote warriors, but they a little busy at the moment. And look how ugly that thing is. The way the skin just go back over the gums, like I ain't gonna say what that look like. But X-23 is fighting these things off, and her fight between them is kind of inching closer to Blackheart. And so right outside, Alexandra's fighting off demons coming out from the circle. And she hears a voice from above say, "Hey, idiot, do you realize what you done?" And in case you're wondering why she's still driving around this thing, like she can't stop. If she stops, the circle will suck Earth into hell. But if she keeps going, then hell's going to try to expand all over Earth. So that's when Johnny tells her the only way to end this is to stop the person who cast the spell. And that's when Johnny tells her, you go stop Blackheart and I'll keep this thing spinning and make sure it doesn't stop. So Alexandra heads on her way up there. X-23 crashes in from her fight. Then you got Hulk and Venom who said they're just going to find the tower and figure it out from there. And this is pretty much what brings all four of these guys into the same room. And when Ross and Venom kick the door in, Flash is talking mad junk. And Ross is like, hey, whoa, easy on the threats, man. I read his Avengers file and the things he's done to people with symbiotes, you don't want them problems. And seconds after that, Alexandra comes crashing through the window. And Blackheart tells her that he's not that concerned about her coming for him, because in hell is where he's his most powerful, unlike the Ghost Rider whose power is much more substantial outside of hell. And with the group together, oddly resembling the new Fantastic Four, which was Ghost Rider, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Hulk. And there's also a what if take where they're looking more official with the actual blue costumes with the 4 on it and everything. And then you got your Infernal 4 that's crazy too. So whenever they bring these guys together, I think it's all but a coincidence, because there's so many instances of this happening over and over again. But when they finally stand together, Venom's like, let's work as a team. And nobody agrees. They're either like, get out of my way and let me handle it, this is personal, or it's only a matter of vengeance. But Johnny Blaze, who's right outside, he really don't care who's handling it, because he's not sure how long he can hold up for. Because it's not like he has powers at this point. He's no longer Ghost Rider, he's just a human being trying to hold out. But lucky enough for everyone, the backups finally come from that call that he made back at the diner. And that was the Damon Hellstorm who also brought Doctor Strange. Because if anybody's going to figure out how to keep this one spreading across the world, it's going to be these two guys. But now that'll do it for this one. So now this series goes through the length of about 6 comics, but I really want to condense it down to 2 videos. Actually, it's more than 6 comics with the things that lead into it and all that. But we'll be able to wrap this one up in 2 parts. Because after these guys defeat their inner lies, they gotta find a way to come together and have a power that can beat Blackheart. But leave your comments below, smash that like button, and we'll do it again next time, guys. Alright, later.